Hey, wait a minute. What's going on here?
I rushed home from work after my mother asked for help. In front of me, there was a moving truck parked.
Hey, whose stuff are they moving?
In response to my question, my husband replied calmly.
It's my parents' stuff, isn't it?
My husband had decided to move his parents, without consulting me or my mother. And to top it off, he was kicking my mother out of the house. I won't allow this selfish behavior. I will definitely show you for the pain these insane people are inflicting on me.
My name is Hannah. I'm 28 years old.
I met my husband Tom at work, and we've been married for almost 2 years now. The two of us have been living together with my mother in her house. A few years ago, my mother had an accident and became physically disabled. She can manage some basic tasks, but I still worry about her, so we decided to live together. At first, my husband was understanding and considerate of my mother, but lately, his selfish actions have become unbearable.
Hey, Tom, it's my mom's hospital appointment next Saturday.
Oh, I can't make it.
What?
My husband replied immediately to my words. Not only that, but he said it casually without making eye contact.
Wait, I haven't even said anything yet.
You're probably going to ask me to take your mom to the hospital, right? I don't want to waste my day off on that. No way.
It's not that. I wanted you to take care of things at home while I take my mom to the hospital.
Oh, that's what you meant. But I can't.
What? Why not?
Why should I have to do housework on my precious day off? Isn't that the housewife's job?
Housewife's job. We both work full-time jobs. When we got married, we promised to support each other as well as my mother. I tried asking him several times after that, but my husband never agreed. Eventually, he became moody and started ignoring me. Even though he always comes home on time from work, he doesn't even prepare meals. He says insensitive things to me even though I'm exhausted from work.
Hey, I'm hungry. Is dinner ready yet? By the way, why don't you just have your mother cook? She's home all day anyway. I wouldn't mind eating out, but then give me money for it, okay?
This attitude had been going on for a while, so I thought it was time to pick the right moment and have a talk. And then one day, I was making breakfast when my mother came out of her room, sweating and looking unwell. I rushed to her and asked, "What's wrong?"
Well, it's a bit hot. Of course it is. It's 28 degrees right now. Didn't you turn on the air conditioner in your room?
Well, you see,
What is it? You didn't know how to turn it on?
the other day, Tom told me not to use the air conditioner because it's a waste of electricity.
She said.
What?
Unexpected words came out of my mother's mouth, and I was shocked. Unexpected words came out of my mother's mouth, and I was left speechless. Tom, did he really say something like that to Mom? To say it's wasting electricity. It's so hot and not using the air conditioner would make her feel sick. I hurried to my husband's room and confronted him right away.
Hey, Tom, what on earth are you thinking?
In response to my angry outburst, he showed a somewhat annoyed expression and said,
What's the sudden fuss about?
What's the fuss? Didn't you tell Mom not to use the air conditioner? Why would you say something so mean?
Mean? Well, we're the ones paying for the utilities in this house. It would be troublesome if they're wasted, right?
Wasted? What if Mom's health gets worse because of this?
You're exaggerating. Hannah, is your mind only on your mom? What about my feelings? You're exaggerating. Hannah, is your mind only...
What?
I have my own concerns, you know. Like our future and the children we'll have someday. And yet you're always fixated on your mom.
I'm not talking about that right now.
If your mom is so important to you, then just think carefully for her sake. You're mama's baby.
My husband threw a cushion at me and sulked. What on earth? He always uses the air conditioner at full blast when he's in his room. It's too selfish to think that he's fine, but others are not. Our family doesn't have to pay rent because my mom built this house. She even pays the property tax, and she provides us with her monthly living expenses. My husband should know all of this, so why can he say such things? I'm not asking him to be grateful to my mom, but I want him to consider it a little.
We'll have to have a discussion another day.
I sighed as I soaked in the bath. A few days later, I went to work as usual and was doing my tasks when my smartphone rang. The screen displayed Mom as the caller. Come on, why is she calling at this hour? Normally, Mom never calls during work hours. Could something have happened? I answered the phone with trepidation.
Mom, what's wrong? Is something happening?
In response to my question, my mother screamed.
Help me, Hannah.
Huh? Help? What do you mean?
Tom just brought his parents here, and the house is in a terrible mess.
Tom brought his parents? Then I heard my husband's voice scolding my mother over the phone.
Hey, didn't I tell you not to contact Hannah?
But Tom, this is really troubling.
Huh? You're so annoying. Anyway, please hang up that phone quickly. Don't make things more complicated.
Wait, Tom. Give me back my smartphone.
After that, the call with my mother was disconnected, and only the sound of the dial tone echoed. What just happened? This is definitely not a normal situation, right? I explained the situation to my boss and hurried back home. When I arrived home, I was left speechless.
Wait a minute, what on earth is going on?
In front of me, there is a moving truck parked, and my husband is giving some instructions to the movers. I confronted my husband.
Hey, whose belongings are they carrying?
Hannah, did you come back from work?
Never mind that, just answer my question. Whose belongings are these? Don't bring them into our house without permission.
They belong to my parents.
What? Why would you do something so presumptuous?
It can't be helped, can it? Both my mom and dad are struggling in life, and it's tough for them. That's why I invited them over.
As my husband calmly explained, anger welled up inside me.
Just wait a minute. Neither my mother nor I have heard anything about this. Don't do things without asking.
If I had told you, would you have refused like you are now? That's why I didn't say anything. Got a problem with that?
If you think that living here would make this house yours, then forget it. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, ask your parents to leave.
What? Cut it out already. We just moved here. How lousy can you be?
Who's the lousy person here? Why am I being blamed? The one doing the unreasonable thing is not me. As I trembled with anger towards my husband and in-laws, he said something unbelievable again.
Hey Hannah, no matter how you look at it, my healthy parents are more dependable for the future. In other words, we should prioritize them.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's better to prioritize my parents over your mother.
His parents are more dependable. Before we got married, I heard from him personally that my dad and mom have a gambling habit, and he says such unreliable parents are more dependable in the future.
So from now on, I'll prioritize my parents. So please, Emil, leave as soon as possible.
When I saw my mother's sad face, my anger reached its peak.
Cut it out! What are you even thinking? This is my mother's house, after all.
As I yelled at my husband and in-laws, my husband shook his head and sighed.
Listen, your mother's house means it's your house, and your house means it's my house. Get it?
You can't be serious. My mother built this house. She's the one paying property taxes. And yet, you let your parents live here without permission, and then tell my mother to leave. How can you even have such a ridiculous idea?
Huh? Ridiculous? You're the one who doesn't understand who should be prioritized. My parents are more valuable than your mother, who is physically handicapped and doesn't have a long future.
Enough of this. How could you even say something like that?
I was about to lunge at my husband, but my mother stopped me.
Hannah, that's enough.
None. Don't stop me.
Just let it go. Let's leave here once and for all.
What are you talking about?
My mother turned to face my husband and in-laws and spoke quietly.
Tom, if your parents are really in trouble, they can stay here. I remember you said you wanted them to stay until they find a job, right?
In my mother's words, my husband deliberately showed a troubled face.
Yes, that's right. My dad got laid off, and life has been tough because of that.
I see. In that case, you can stay there for a month. During that time, make sure your father finds a job.
Yes, understood.
I couldn't bring myself to believe my husband's conveniently positive response. At this rate, this home would be taken away. I whispered to my mother.
Mom, are you serious? If they continue to live here...
Her mother responded with a cheerful smile.
Don't worry, Hannah. Trust me.
But...
For now, let's just go.
I had nothing but dissatisfaction with this decision. But the fact remained that my mother was the owner of the house. I couldn't argue with that. I decided to silently follow my mother's decision. Afterward, we quickly rented an apartment, and the two of us started a new life.
Hey Mom, was this really a good idea? I think it's a bit too lenient.
It's fine, don't worry. Oh, and don't contact them first, okay? Wait for their call.
While sipping tea, my mother replied casually.
But,
Don't worry so much. I've got it all planned.
huh? You've planned?
Well,
What came out of my mother's mouth far exceeded my imagination. To think she had been contemplating something so dreadful. Even as her daughter, I couldn't help but feel a bit scared. But with this plan, afterward, as my mother instructed, I waited for the other side to contact. Around 2 months passed, and suddenly, I received a call from my husband.
Johanna, it's a disaster.
Well, it's been a while. What's gotten you so worked up?
It's not what's gotten me worked up. We can't use any utilities at home. You gotta do something about it.
I couldn't help but laugh at his obvious panic, even over the phone. I coolly replied to his plea for help.
What do you mean, do something? I stopped everything. So it's only natural they're not working, right?
What? You stopped them? Hannah, did you do all of this?
That's right. I handled the utility contracts and payments. Is there a problem?
Of course there's a problem. Why would you do something so selfish?
Selfish. I did everything as we agreed. I waited a whole month before cutting off all the lifelines. So, the fact that you're all struggling right now means you're still living in that house, right? Your dad and mom haven't found jobs either, have they?
When I pressed him, my husband awkwardly admitted.
Well,
I piled it on him even more.
Your father and mother, instead of looking for a job, they're going to the casino, you know?
casino?
Oh, didn't you know? My mom has been keeping an eye on your parents every day. After you go to work, they go to the casino together happily every day.
That's gotta be a joke. I've been giving them money to support them.
Oh dear, all that money you've been giving them ended up being spent on the casino. My condolences.
Enough about my parents. Just please restore the utilities. I can't live in this scorching heat without it.
Even though you kept on saying to my mom things like don't use the air conditioner and don't waste electricity, you're only concerned about yourself in the end. You really only care about your own comfort.
What did you say? You shouldn't talk like that to your husband.
They refused to admit their faults and ended up angry in the end. I was truly fed up with such a husband. Ignoring him as he shouted over the phone, I firmly declared,
After relying on your wife and my mother for 2 months, what gives you the right to act so high and mighty? Your family has been able to get by thanks to my mother all this time. And yet, what's with your arrogant attitude? What's this talk about thinking about the future? In the end, it's a complete mess.
What are you saying? If you say you'll continue to make us suffer like this, are you thinking about divorce?
Divorce?
I asked in response, and my husband chuckled triumphantly.
Oh, right. Hannah, you wouldn't want a divorce, would you? If you don't want to get divorced, then arrange the utilities so you can start living on your own.
What are you talking about? I've already decided on a divorce with you, whether you think about it or not.
Ignoring my husband's dumbfounded voice, I continued to press on.
Isn't it obvious? I haven't fallen so low as to cling to marriage after all this. I'd rather get divorced quickly than endure this kind of life. I won't restore the electricity, water, or gas to that house until you all leave. If you're fine with that, then go ahead and continue living there.
Hey, wait a minute.
Never contact me again, no matter what.
Ignoring whatever my husband was about to say, I hung up the phone. With the utilities cut off, I decided to wait for his family to leave. Realizing that I wasn't answering the phone, he started sending messages.
Cut it out already. It's so hot I'm going to die. At least connect the water, please. I'm begging you. You're the only one I can rely on now.
I continued to ignore all the messages, and a week passed. Without utilities, a house is just a box. The noisy husband and his family finally left our house. At that time, I had also sent divorce papers, so the divorce was successfully finalized. My mother and I were able to return to our original home safely, and peace returned to our daily lives. On the other hand, my in-laws still haven't found jobs and seem to rely solely on their son's income. However, his salary is very high. Now he's rented a small apartment in his name, and the three of them are living a meager life. This is what happens when you don't express gratitude and only complain. From now on, my mother and I want to live a relaxed life without anyone bothering us.